By the way, this podcast is directed by AI. Be careful, because we might
take your jobs.
So, as AI continues to advance within the realm of filmmaking and trying to produce things at the current moment, what are some ethical considerations do you believe that filmmakers should be mindful of when trying to integrate AI into their creative process?
I think it comes to the methods in which they use the AI in. So in a lot of cases, AI can be considered plagiarism, although it feeds off of different sources and it says that it gives out the original content. A lot of times it can give off ideas or content that can look similar to another film. So this is when the filmmaker's role is very important, because they have to look at the method in which they're using the AI and how much they allow it to, I don't want to say control, but take credit when it comes to the content that they produce. So when it comes to script making, generating the idea, etc., there's a fine line between originality and plagiarism when it comes to AI. So I think they should be very mindful of that. And then they should also look at the goal. As a filmmaker, or at least what I know of filmmaking, is that they want to create content that they want to see out. They want to show a vision, a message. So if the goal is to show their own message, then AI shouldn't even be used in the first place. But if they want to create something that the audiences will like, then they can go on AI and be like, oh, I want something that teenagers will watch, and it will give it that content. So I think the goal should be considered as well in terms of creative processing. And another thing to consider is, rather than using AI as a replacement, as an assistance. So I know AI has assisted a lot in terms of the editing process, the color grading, sound design, etc. Rather than using it in the pre-production process, maybe using it in the post-production process will help make it a lot more efficient and will still give that creative element to the director.
Yes, but to carry on your assisting point, wouldn't AI be able to assist in delivering the message that they want to be seen out in the world in a better and more advanced way, rather than, being limited and having the message overshadowed by certain bad technicalities or bad elements, even in post when AI can help? Wouldn't it be even better for the viewer to have the message clearly refined by AI rather than simply by the filmmaker?
But the thing is, and this is one of the ethical considerations and risks, is that sometimes AI cannot understand stereotypes, bias, appropriateness of content. So when you say clarifying the message, it can sometimes use it in a negative shadow or in a negative way that might not appeal to what the viewers want to see. It can have the general understanding of what the viewers want to watch, what the audiences like to see. But when it comes to the message itself, it can misinterpret at times. Now, I know AI is supposed to be perfect, but the message to which the filmmaker should be from the filmmaker itself. Why take it to AI? However, in certain cases where they want to, let's say, extend a certain piece of content in a film, or extend a piece of script, let's say, AI assisting them would not be a problem. But to them be part of the brainstorming process of the idea that comes out, I think that can be ethically inconsiderate, unethical at times, because then you're defeating the point of what the filmmaker is doing, which is showcasing their own vision.
So would you say that there's like a fundamental difference between using AI or utilizing it in a creative process in filmmaking and engaging in plagiarism? I know you touched upon that in the previous question, but in other words, can the act of drawing certain ideas or inspiration from AI be equated with actually taking them from human creators or from existing works? Keeping in mind, AI has the ability to analyze previous films and go, delve in depth with, how the content is being made.
Right, as you said, AI uses and analyzes different types of content. It feeds off of its sources. So in certain cases, that type of film, the idea that it might give, can be very similar to an idea that's already been portrayed out into the world. And this is where plagiarism might come as a problem. Now, it wouldn't come as a problem during the pre-production, production, post-production process. But once the film gets distributed, once other filmmakers speak out, and this I know will be a problem if AI gets used continuously within the filmmaking, then you'll have a battle between originality and a battle between using AI. So this is where the fine line of plagiarism comes in, because then you'll have a lot of filmmakers coming in, a lot of production companies coming in and saying, you plagiarized our content, you used AI. AI probably used our source. But AI never actually gives out, or in a lot of cases did not give out the source. So there would be no proof. So it's just going to be this ongoing battle where you won't identify if it's a plagiarized content or not, but there's going to be so much inspiration that might be coming from other films that might affect that. There's going to be a lot of disputes because of it.
Wouldn't we be able to consider that as a type of homage to, the films that AI took that inspiration from? Wouldn't we be able to say that we're referencing it, considering that a lot of filmmakers don't use AI but still reference other films, and it's very present in certain genres such as horror or certain crime or thrillers. You can see it repetitively, and so wouldn't that be also considered in that aspect?
If it does get referenced, then yes, it would be. If they do mention that there is some sort of inspiration from this sort of film, or from this director's vision, or from this, because directors get known for the type of movies that they create. So if this film director or producer comes out and says, oh, we've had inspiration from this and this and this using the AI, then it wouldn't be an issue. It wouldn't be a problem. And it's something that happens even without AI, where certain directors, actors, etc. come out and say, I wanted to embody this type of person or this type of film. So in that case, it wouldn't be an issue. It's the opposite of that. That appreciation would be a positive change, a positive thing to happen. But if it does get created without that form of referencing, with saying that it's completely original, it's a new idea, it's bringing it out in the world, even though it can be obviously evident that it's taken from other sources and taken from other films, then it becomes an issue. And then it's a battle between the filmmakers and even the audience, who are now getting a bigger say in the film world. The critics, they're going to start talking about it. It's not going to be something that ends there. And this is where ethics is going to be considered from all aspects. I'm not just saying it in a legal or in a detailed format, but even when it comes to what the viewers want to see. It can discredit the film very easily.
So let's dig in a little bit more into stereotypes and the creation of characters. So when it comes to AI algorithms and decision-making processes in filmmaking, how can we ensure transparency, accountability, especially when they might perpetuate certain biases or stereotypes because they've been existing in previous films that AI is analyzing?
Right. So this is when the filmmaker's role is very important. Overlooking and overseeing what the AI is doing to the film can help it get even more transparent, can help with the element of transparency within the film. So looking into what type of content is this film portraying through the AI, what type of message it's showing, is the script appropriate, culturally appropriate, stereotypical, is it, what type of content is it portraying? And from that, not only should it take that into consideration, the type of content and whether it suits the audiences or whether it will be attacked by audiences, but also how original it is, going back into if it's sourced from other films, if it's not sourced from other films. These types of things help with the transparency. It's also very important that if the film is using AI, then they should be transparent with that to the world. They shouldn't cover up the fact that they're using AI to help in any sort of situation, whether if it's like a simple assistance in the editing process. That should still be considered. It needs to be mentioned, because if it's not and it gets found out later on, then it's going to be a whole issue. You weren't being transparent with us, you were lying to us, you used AI, it's not your original film. No, a filmmaker should go out and speak and say, I have used AI, but I did this and this and this. The AI only assisted us in this and this and this. Even if it assisted, let's say, in the idea making, it might actually be seen as a positive thing, because even though there's a lot of criticism on AI, a lot of it appreciated for its accurate, results and its variety of information, and in certain cases its originality, because it doesn't give the same piece of information to every single user. So they need to be transparent with referencing and crediting that AI was used. It can get even more specific to what form of AI was used, what company they were using the AI from. Partnerships can happen later on. So I think this is the most important thing, is referencing where the AI used in which specific part of the film making process, and then from later on when it comes to what the message is being sent out by the AI, and overlooking it. AI in general should be overlooked. It just doesn't stick to that type of message. It should generally be supervised.
do you believe we have the capability to supervise it? It is a program that generates on its own. I mean, we are the ones who program it, but we did not place in those certain restrictions or limitations. It can do so when it comes to things like sensitive topics, but are we really capable of doing that?
I mean, it can start from the simple process of specifying what you want the AI to do. That's something that we can do when it comes to using AI. But also, if there's something that is not suitable from the AI itself, then going back into what the filmmaker wants, going with the original plan. Filmmaking is not a field where AI is necessary, other than, let's say, when it comes to assistance in terms of CGI and animation and, that form of content. But when it comes to filmmaking has been here for decades. It started off without AI. It can be used without AI. That's why supervising it can be done. If the message is suitable or the result that the AI is given is suitable, then they go over it. If it's not, then they can either remove it or adapt to it by specifying, by changing its format, depending on what the format is. So it kind of, you do have a point. It kind of depends on what form of AI is being used. If it's something that's being used that cannot be changed, then that comes into whether the filmmaker should even include it in the first place.
So finally, when we want to talk about, in terms of audience and engagement, how do you think the use of AI in filmmaking impacts the viewer's emotional connection to the story, considering that it is not a human? Also, are there any considerations to keep in mind to ensure the audience's trust and engagement in certain AI-generated content?
I think audiences now have a much bigger role when it comes to watching films and even reviewing films. Back in the past, films were seen as a form of entertainment. Now audiences look at it, criticize it, analyze it from all aspects, whether it's the actors, whether it's the film, whether it's the message, who's playing who, what is being spoken out. It can even go down to even the props and the behind the scenes. There's so much media consumption, there's so much entertainment consumption that now the audience's response is very important. So I think audiences, depending on what form, what type of audiences it is, some of them of course just watch it for entertainment and do not really care about the details and what it's portraying. Even if it's a bad movie, they watched it, they went to the cinema, they came out, that's an experience. But some of them go into social media, make it a big deal. They can understand what AI is. They can understand if there is AI being used or not. And this is why the filmmaker should go back into what's their original intent. Do you want to make a successful movie that everyone wants to watch, or do you want to make something that shows your vision? Because the reality is that the film that they're going to show from their own vision is probably going to be the one that viewers will see more original. But if it's something that's been seen a million times, they're going to know that there was some form of technology, even if it's not AI, that was used, whether it's referencing to another film, etc. So I think audiences now can not necessarily control, but play a big part in what type of films are being created, whether it comes from films that create sequels because audiences enjoyed it and because they know that it's going to get more successful. So I think they will be able to identify, coming back into AI, they will be able to identify the AI generated content, and this is when the filmmaker should know where to put the AI in order to give out the film that will connect to the audience, because AI, as much as can specify information, as much as it will still be some form of general, you cannot really specify the emotion that this actor will be playing in this specific scene, but that scene might be what the audiences connect to. So it really does depend, but I think audiences now play a bigger role than they did in the past.
Wow, I mean, thank you so much for all of that. It's been a very fruitful conversation.
It's really interesting to see where AI will go from now on. So
just wait and see.
This podcast was directed by AI. Don't forget to subscribe to dive more with us into AI and filmmaking. Ciao!